Thank you for tuning in to the Helium Radio Network. You are listening to a rebroadcast of a previously recorded show.
Welcome to the Insurance Sucks podcast. Yeah, we know it sucks, but you have to buy it, and you probably don't have the smarts to figure out what you need or where to find it. That's why you should listen to Eric and Daryl, brought to you by QuoteSavage.com.
Welcome back to another episode of Insurance Sucks, brought to you by the guys at Quote Savage. If you're looking for, what do we got? Car,
auto, or
home,
car is auto, isn't it?
Home,
life,
and soon to be health.
Soon to be health.
Check out the Quote Savage folks. They'd love to give you a quote. Tell them we sent you so we can give us some love. Today's episode, we're talking about
insurance rates
and the most expensive and inexpensive states in the United States and why that is. A common question for a lot of insurance folks is, why the heck are my rates so high?
Why are my rates so high?
Because you live in Florida.
Because you live in Florida.
And we're going to find out where Florida rates in that. And we're joined again for another episode from our friend Chris. Thanks for joining us.
All right, thank you.
We're going to be talking about insurance, and Chris and Daryl both work in the insurance industry.
That's right.
So we'll get their take on this particular list. So today I figured we start with the most expensive states. So do you guys have a guess as to which state it is?
Ben, I work in Florida. I write auto insurance in Florida. I'm going to say Florida.
What about you, Chris?
Native Floridians, definitely got to be Florida.
Got to be Florida?
South Florida is probably the bulk of it.
Oh, yeah.
I would have to agree with you. And if I was to guess, I would have guessed Florida as well. And guess what? We're all wrong.
Oh, no.
All wrong. So this is a 2019 survey that was performed for multiple different areas, multiple different states. So we have the top 50, but today we're only going to cover the top 5 most expensive and the top least expensive. So coming in at number 1 is the most expensive state to insure is actually Michigan.
So, all right. So you're telling me these people have to deal with the snow. They have to deal with Detroit. And they also pay really high insurance rates.
I don't know. If you watch RoboCop, I don't think, I think Michigan kind of disowns Detroit. It's kind of its own little country, according to RoboCop, if you ever watched that movie. But yes, they have to deal with snow. They have to deal with ice. They have to deal with, I would assume, bad drivers as well if they're the most expensive.
And the Lions.
And the Lions.
Yeah,
But, so they have to do all of that, and they have the highest rates in the country.
Yep. And do you guys have a guess why?
Well, I know they are a no-fault state, and Florida's a no-fault state, and I know we've got to be up the list somewhere, so I'm going to say because they're a no-fault state.
That is incorrect, but close. It has to do with coverages. So Michigan, believe it or not, this is the 6th year that they've come in as the most expensive state to insure for auto accident, and it's never managed to finish lower than 3rd since Insure.com started these ratings. That's where we're getting these numbers from today, from Insure.com. The primary reason for this is due to its unique insurance system. And what we mean by that is that they have a very unique type of protection, which we'll talk about in a minute. So do you guys have an idea of so this is the highest state, the highest annual premium. Do you have any idea of how much you think that is a year for the average annual premium? And everybody's different and unique, so we're just talking averages.
Right, average. I mean, let's see. I pay $1,200 a year, or every 6 months for each of my cars. So that's $2,400 a year. So I'm paying $5,000. I'm paying $5,000 for 2 cars every year.
That's a low price.
Seems a bit high. So what do you think, Chris? I don't know.
But you're probably overinsured, to be honest, because you're an agent. You know what the coverages should be.
Yeah, but I live in Hillsborough County, Florida, and it's
not the greatest
of
counties.
Rates. I don't know.
Well, if you're paying average 12, I'm going to go higher. That say they're somewhere in there 14 and change.
Pretty close. The average annual premium in Michigan came in at $2,611. It's a huge leap from last year, actually. That's an increase of $372 over 2018. These are obviously 2019 statistics since we're in a new year here. It put Michigan a whopping 79% above the national average. So the national average, as you guys were pretty much right on point, is about $1,457. Mm-hmm. The major issue in Michigan is because of the unique coverage type we talked about. It's a unique no-fault car insurance scheme. It requires all drivers to carry personal injury protection, or PIP, as it's commonly referred to. The PIP help covers medical expenses that the policyholder, family members, or even passengers that are insured, or injured in the car can incur. The difference between Michigan and other PIP states is the limits. The majority of other states, like Florida that we're in now, puts a reasonable limit on PIP. So what's the average in Florida? $10,000?
It's $10,000.
Is the minimum coverage. In Michigan, it guarantees unlimited lifetime medical benefits to auto accident victims, which dramatically increases an insurer's risk, which automatically would adapt to a higher premium. So if you have unlimited coverage and you got benefits the rest of your life, obviously it's going to cost the insurance carrier more money to write that policy. So in turn, it's going to cost you more to pay for it.
That's
crazy.
Nice payout.
So their health insurance rates must be lower than.
You would think, right?
No.
I don't know.
Well, this is kind of puts a interesting spin on a topic we're going to talk about in a future show, which is all of the fraud and issues that occur in and around the personal injury protection and the treatment of those injuries in the industry, specifically to Florida, because that's where we're based and we have a lot of experience here. But when you think about it, something we were just talking about in show planning earlier was the fact if somebody gets injured today and a side effect of that injury doesn't appear for 5 years or 10 years or 12 years because they're just quality of life or they're doing something stupid or something happens from a relation to that, it's covered.
Right.
Which is interesting.
It is. It is. I don't think it's a bad thing from a consumer perspective.
I think it's great for consumers.
I think it's until you pay the insurance rates.
Right.
But for the companies, it's I don't know how they operate, really.
So at a $2,611 average annual premium, what's that come out to? About $120 a month?
Sure. Yeah.
Somewhere, probably a little bit more.
Yeah.
150 would be 1,500. Would be closer. So we're probably closer to 200 because 200 would be 2,400. So we're 200 and change, right? Like probably 205, 210, somewhere around there.
Right. Eric, I thought we established in a previous episode that I'm not good at math.
Well, me neither.
So you're asking me these.
Chris, are you good at math?
Negative.
Okay. So
Great.
I'm going to ballpark we're somewhere in the low twos. So for an average insurance policy, that could be a massive increase for a lot of folks. I don't know what you guys pay for your premiums in Florida, but mine's under $100. That would more than double my monthly premium.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's what you see. I mean, when people move, because people move to Florida from up north, right? So I see this every day, every week. They go, well, I was paying $500 every 6 months in Ohio for this much coverage. It's great. If you want that coverage here in Florida, it's going to cost you $1,500.
Yeah.
And they freak out. They're like, well, why? I'm like, you're paying for the sunshine.
Yeah.
That's what you are.
It baffles me. I guess I knew it, but I never really paid that close attention to it, that a lot of the stuff that happens in your own county and your neighborhood drastically impacts your insurance rates. Because for me, I drive a modern, Ford SUV that's 5 years old, very modern car. I'm not driving a Ferrari. I'm not, I don't have multi-million dollars of coverage on my car. And for me, it always baffled me that if my neighbors had if I lived in a neighborhood where all my neighbors had nicer cars than me, my insurance rate would go up because the cost of theft in my neighborhood was higher than a different zip code. Or if there's more break-ins in my neighborhood, not specifically on my street. I have a car alarm, I have a gate, I have a gun, I have a dog. Doesn't matter, because there's more break-ins in my neighborhood, my insurance rates go up.
Right. It's also the population.
I get it. I mean, I understand, but to me, it doesn't make sense. They should insure people individually based on their merits more so than a neighborhood or when it comes to car insurance.
But that's not how insurance principles work.
Of course not.
It's a pool effect. So you're taking all people in one area and saying, all right, it's going to cost us this much per person. So this is our base rate, and this is a base rate. So without any other factors, this is what we would charge a person to insure their car. Then we get into, do you have accidents, tickets? How's your credit?
It baffles me still that credit affects that.
Because numbers show if you have bad credit, you're going to file a claim. Think about this. You have a $500 deductible on your car.
Okay.
Okay. If you have great credit, usually means you have a little bit more money. You're a little more fluent.
Okay.
Not always, but
see the argument, yeah.
Typically. If you have a $750 repair that needs to be made, you can either file the insurance claim and get reimbursed for the $250 because there's a $500 deductible,
right?
Or you just pay the $750 and you
move on.
People with the money and the ability to, or to pay $750 and move on.
Well, because their insurance rates will go up if they file the claim, so they get in the long run, it's cheaper just to pay $250.
Right.
Because over the course of 5 years, they'll pay twice that.
They're
Right.
looking at saving that money in the future for it.
Right, which makes sense. I
But
get that argument.
If you don't, you can't do that, and now you are filing more claims, companies paying out more money.
I get it. I just don't see it makes sense because they're not taking individual case-by-case type of basis.
So that is individual, case by case.
Well, to give you a case in point, give me an example. What if you have a couple, husband and wife, they get divorced. Because they get divorced, there's more expenses that are incurred, and someone's credit gets messed up because of the fact they're living higher on credit cards or things like that. No fault of their own. They decided, or one of the spouses decided to get a divorce, but now both of them get punished because of the fact they're going through that life change.
Yep.
And if they had perfect credit up to that point, now those two insureds get punished because of the fact that they're changing the quality of their life.
I'm going to do you one better. The rates are going to go up anyway because they're getting divorced. A divorced person has a higher rate than a married person would.
Well, see, there you go.
Wow.
So, but I'm saying, to me, I don't think that's fair because it's not a case-by-case basis. If someone was just a grifter and lived paycheck to paycheck, had no money, lived on credit cards, or had no credit cards or didn't pay their debt, I get that. I understand that. They're a higher risk, or they've had multiple accidents. But in certain circumstances where things like that happen, life changes, I feel like that's not fair for an insurance company to increase their rate.
All right, so we're getting off topic here, guys.
Yeah, sorry. We're going on a tangent.
This is really important. So you want to be rated individually. So Progressive has a snapshot tool. Mm-hmm. Allstate has theirs. State Farm has theirs. Safeco, Liberty Mutual, they all have their little plugins.
Those little things you put in your car to monitor you, right?
That's how you can get rated individually. That's why they offer discounts.
Got it.
Progressive is the only one that actually surcharges for bad driving now.
Interesting.
But eventually, I would say within 3 to 5 years, those little plug-in devices, either they're going to be in your car or on your phone, will be mandatory in the insurance industry.
You think?
Yeah, absolutely, because it's the best way to get accurate driving data on your insured.
That's kind of a scary thought because I think that violates a lot of privacy laws.
Any more than Facebook?
Well, no, I agree with you. I'm not saying Facebook doesn't, but my point is I'm just trying to think of an example where that might be the case. So hypothetically, someone works nights and then they're tracking them, and maybe that's a police officer. And for 1 month, they're required to work nights. So that means the month that they're working nights and driving, they're being tracked. They're going to charge them more for driving at night versus driving during the day.
Police officer wouldn't have that device in their police car. Secondly, you can.
Yet.
Well, I'm sure they do for the police, but not for their own personal driving. Secondly, on the app, on the phone, you can turn it off.
Okay. So what's the point in having it if it's mandatory if you can turn it off?
No, the idea is you turn it on, you get a discount.
Got it.
Right? But it doesn't track GPS, so we don't know where you're going.
But I'm talking more about driving time, like when you're driving.
Oh.
Because if I'm not mistaken, if you drive at 3 in the morning or 7 in the morning, you're going to pay more, right?
Absolutely. Because it's more dangerous to drive. You're more likely to have been drinking, or you're tired, and you're going to be driving.
What if you're a doctor who works 10-hour shifts during the day and you drive home at 3 in the morning?
Tough.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I understand.
But you work 10-hour day. You're going to be tired. 3 in the morning.
I get it. I understand your perspective. But my point I'm trying to make is I don't think the insurance industry is fair because they don't take things in a case-by-case basis. And when they do, in most cases, you get penalized for letting them in because of the fact that you have a unique type of life.
But
or lifestyle.
to do what you're suggesting would be so many data points, it would be too expensive to write that programming in order to do it.
I think we should, and we'll be billionaires.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Do you know math well enough to do an algorithm?
I do have a degree in computer science. I mean, I could probably figure that out.
I guess he could, couldn't he?
Okay, so we're off topic here, but let's get back to our most expensive states and the least expensive states to live in. So number one, obviously, was Michigan. We learned
Right.
because of their unique insurance system. What do you guys think is number two? I don't think you guys will guess it. I think it's so unique you'll never know.
I'm still going to say Florida. Florida's got to be top 2.
I'm going to go different. I'm going to say New York.
God,
That's a good pick.
both incorrect again.
What?
Louisiana is the second.
Those Cajuns?
Yeah, the Cajuns. Now, here's why. I did not know this until I read the study. So, the main reasoning is there's a lot of uninsured and lots of lawsuits with the drivers. So, Louisiana is in the second spot for the third year in a row. So, it's nothing new. They've been climbing. It's been the top 5 every year that the study's been done on Insure.com. And the average premium in the Pelican State is $2,298, which is 58% higher than a national average. The biggest factor is the underinsured drivers who like to sue each other. The IRC found that 13% of Louisiana drivers don't have insurance. 13%. That's a huge percentage.
13%.
In addition, almost 40% are carrying the absolute minimum coverage levels, which we've talked about in past shows is the worst thing to do because in most cases when you get in an accident, you need more than the minimum required policy limits, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, it's really interesting to see that statistic and to think about 13% doesn't have insurance. And we'll talk about how much Florida here in a minute, but that's a pretty interesting number. So $2,298 is the average annual premium in Louisiana.
Okay.
So number 3, guys got any guesses? You've already mentioned it.
I'm sticking to it, man. If it's not Florida, then I quit.
It is Florida. So
Oh,
you are
thank
correct.
God.
So Florida's number 3, and there's a couple of reasons for this. So the Sunshine State stayed in the third spot with an average premium of $2,219, which puts us 52% above the national average. And uninsured drivers are the biggest factor in Florida. The IRC study ranking the state as the highest rate of uninsured drivers in the nation. So if you guys didn't hear that, we have the highest amount of uninsured drivers out of all of the states.
I knew that already.
Which is scary.
It is.
So the survey estimated that 26.7% of drivers on the road in Florida do not have insurance.
That is 1 in 4.
Yeah.
It's over 1 in 4.
Over 1 in 4.
And it's terrifying because you know how many old people are on our roads?
Yeah.
You know?
Ton.
One accident.
You're done.
It's done.
Or young people on our roads.
Yeah.
I don't care
tourists.
about them.
We're going to talk about that. So
Tourists,
a little
yeah.
bit more breakdown. When a quarter of the drivers are uninsured, it will increase the cost of insurance for everyone, like we've talked about in past shows.
Of course.
Florida has more of its share of uninsured drivers, but it's not the only factor affecting the insurance rates. It's home to an estimated 21.3 million people, and not all of them fall into the right category for insurers, meaning that Florida has the largest percentage of riskier drivers. The high number of students, which we just talked about, high number of young drivers, due to the many universities in Florida. We're in the Pinellas County area, and there's 4 colleges just in Pinellas County alone.
Right.
So, I mean, when you think about that, that's a high number of college students in one county. And, I mean, heck, if you think about the Tampa Bay area, between Hillsborough, Pinellas, and the surrounding areas, each one of those universities has multiple campuses.
Yep.
Right.
So we have a ton of students on the road here.
And Nova Southeastern just moved in.
Right, exactly. So do the many universities. We also have older drivers, which is we have the largest number of retirement communities in Florida. So all the folks are
That's
here.
an easy fact.
Yeah, really easy fact. They're
Yeah.
here seasonally, because they live in a different part of the country
Yeah.
half the year in here, or they're here year round because that's where they retired to, so for the weather. And also we have a high number of drivers unfamiliar with the local roads due to the amount of population, and the tourism population that we have in the greater Tampa Bay area and in the state of Florida.
Yeah.
So, I mean, here in Tampa, we actually have the number 1 beaches in the U.S. Clearwater and Madeira Beach are rated the top beaches in the United States.
Right.
Draws in a ton of people. We have Disney. We have
Busch Gardens
Busch
is
Gardens
in
in
Hillsborough
Tampa.
County. Yeah.
Key West, Miami, Super Bowl coming down
Super
next
Bowl
week.
next year. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's crazy how many tourists we have here. So we're almost to our first commercial break, but I want to see if we can get these other 2 states in before we go to break. You guys have any idea what number 4 is? You'll never guess it.
Hawaii. I don't know.
Nope.
Texas.
Nope. Close. Oklahoma.
Oh.
So Oklahoma, the Sooner State,
Oklahoma.
just jumped up. So this is a 2019 survey on Insure.com. It jumped up to the list. So it went from 13th place in 2018 to 4th in 2019, which is a huge jump. The average premium in Oklahoma was $1,966, or a 35% above the average national rate. So Oklahoma has a couple of problems that help to increase the insurance rates. Automobile insurance rates are higher mainly because of the catastrophic storms Oklahoma experiences and the rather large number of uninsured motorists. Located in Tornado Alley, Oklahoma has experienced plenty of severe weather that leads to expensive claims for insurance companies, and the costs end up hitting everyone's premium. According to Farmers Insurance Report, Oklahoma ranks 6th in the nation for hail damage claims from 2013 to 2017. Farmers data shows that 63% of the comprehensive auto insurance claims were connected to hail damage. That's a butt ton of hail.
Falling ice.
And I can't imagine that's good for your paint job.
No.
Nor the windshields.
Or the windshields.
Or anything.
Yeah. Humans. Got to be inside.
Siding.
Yeah. So we're up to number 5. We're going to do this one right before we go to break. So do you guys have any guesses on what number 5 is?
At this point,
It's not Hawaii.
Is it California?
It is not California.
Well, I don't know then.
I'm at a loss.
So Washington, D.C. comes in at number 5.
That's not a state.
Well, according to the survey, it's coming in at number 5. We're going to go to our first break. When we come back, we're going to explain to you why. Make sure during the break you visit the folks at Quote Savage. Check them out. Let them know we sent you. And we'll be back after this quick break. And welcome back to Insurance Sucks, brought to you by the folks at Quote Savage. We really appreciate you tuning in on Helium Radio Day, or if you're checking us out on iTunes and Spreaker and all that kind of fun places where we're at. I'm your host, Eric Remmel, joined by a co-host,
Daryl.
And we have a guest today, Chris, who's joining us as well. He's a local insurance agent here to the Tampa Bay area, so we really appreciate him taking time out to join us. So before the break, we were talking about the 5 most expensive places to get car insurance in the U.S., and number 5 is Washington, D.C. Do you guys have an idea or any kind of guesses as to why?
Politicians.
Well, yeah, they probably cost us a lot of money. Right. All kinds of
all
ways.
The rallies, maybe everybody parking on the side of the streets. And
No, it's got to be people related, right?
Have you ever been to Washington, D.C.?
Yeah.
Have you ever driven there?
No.
It's hell.
I was like 12.
Yeah, I went on a field trip in a bus with everybody else.
It's hell. I went there about 10-ish years ago, and the roads are extremely tiny, and there is a butt ton of cars on them. And during certain times of the day, they're only one way, and they don't allow you to park on there. So, like, the roads will change directions. Like, so there'll be 2-way during certain parts of the day, and then there'll be 1-way during other parts of the day.
Kind of like the Leroy Selman.
Very similar, but we're talking like 5 inner city streets. So, like, you're on a street, 5 lanes across, going one way, and if you have to turn left, you're just totally screwed. Like, if you're on the right-hand lane and you go to the left, it sucked. If I ever go back there, I would never drive there. Uber, cab, never again.
Uber sounds good.
So Washington, D.C. closes out the top 5th because the average annual premium is $1,876. Putting it 29% above the national average. The big reason that D.C. makes the cut is because of population density. The entire district is basically an urban area, which leads to higher insurance rates. According to a census, D.C. has a population density of 11,020 people per square mile. So when you think about that in comparison, New York clocks in at 28,256 people. So it's basically half the size or population density of New York. It puts it well above other large cities, including Houston and Los Angeles. So they've got actually more people per square mile than even Los Angeles when you think about that in comparison.
Okay.
Highly populated cities often have higher crime, claim, and vandalism rates, which then means insurers have to pay higher rates to cover their cost. Tons of cars are crammed into a small space, which leads to more accidents, which leads to more claims, which in turn leads to higher insurance rates.
Yeah, I don't... That's
smaller claims,
Sure, yeah. I mean, there's no highway.
Not as much as the Twisters, but
the most confusing roundabouts are in Washington D.C. I've gotten unstuck a couple of those a few times. You're like going around trying to figure out where you go.
Doing like the Benny Hill thing.
Yep.
How do you get out of that? Like, do you just cut across the lanes and just hope for the best?
First time I ever went to D.C. or Baltimore, I was visiting my grandfather in Pennsylvania, and I was looking for a cheap flight. Found out flying into Baltimore, into Maryland, and then driving out was the cheaper option than flying into Pennsylvania and driving over. It was only a 4-hour drive. I had to rent a car anyway, so I said, hey, what the hell, I'll fly in there. When I was leaving, I flew out of Washington. It's just how the flights worked.
Right.
It's 4 a.m. I'm driving to the airport. I'm confused as hell. I'm half asleep trying to figure out where I'm going. I literally, I think, went around about probably 7 times before I figured out where my exit was. Well, back then there was no Siri or GPS, so I'm using an old GPS in the dashboard of the old school rental cars.
Oh yeah.
Lost it every time I turn left, and I'm like, I've already driven past it. Go back around the circle. Turn left. Oh no, not here. It's the wrong exit. Get back on. Yeah, never do that again.
That's
it's in a snowstorm, so it's not a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, okay, that's all right.
Never driven in snow before.
blindness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered the 5 most expensive states to live in. Now we're going to cover the 5 most inexpensive states to insure that you live in.
Okay. So
any guess for number 1?
Well, let's recap what we learned. Okay, the expensive states have really bad laws. They have a lot of people for the most part, or they have really bad weather,
or uninsured drivers,
A lot of
uninsured drivers.
Right. So where's a place with not a lot of people, with a high number of intelligent people that insure their cars, and has pretty good weather?
I'm gonna say Hawaii.
I'm going to say New Mexico.
desert weather, I'll take Hawaii over New Mexico.
Yeah, but it's like not, catastrophic weather. It's, like a thunderstorm. Not a big deal.
Well, I hate to tell you, both are wrong. It's actually Maine. And to know why, Maine jumped up 13 spots this year to capture the top slot for the cheapest insurance rate. The average annual premium in Maine. So what did we say? Let me go back up here. Hold on my notes. The average annual rate that we said for the nation was $1,457.
Right.
Then the most expensive states were, $2,600 and below. So the least expensive rate in the U.S. as of last year was $845
A year.
in Maine.
That's significantly less.
It's 42% lower than the national average, so it's almost half.
That is.
And the reasoning is because a bunch of different things, but basically population density. It's very, very rural, and very, very low uninsured rates. And they have also a very competitive market. So all the factors to keep the price down, and then a lot of folks writing insurance there to keep the rates low.
There you go. See, people,
Yeah.
smart people that insure their cars.
So it's the pine tree state. So what are they known for? Aren't they known for syrup? Isn't that where they get
No, that's
molasses?
Vermont.
That's Vermont.
That's Vermont.
It's moose.
Moose. Well, because they're close. They're right on the Canadian border, right? So they're
Yeah, they got a lot of meese.
a lot
Is
of
it
meese.
No.
Mooses.
Just
Moose.
mooses?
Mooses.
Moose.
Just moose.
Is it
A lot of moose.
singular and plural? Mooses.
Guys, we gotta move on.
All right.
I'm thinking dessert. Moose.
Okay. So number 2. Any guesses? So number 2 for the least expensive state comes in at Wisconsin.
Wisconsin, the Badger State.
Badger State.
All
So
right.
it jumped up 5 spots this year to finish second as the least expensive. It's the annual average premium in Wisconsin is $951, which is 35% below the national average. The reason the car insurance is so cheap in Wisconsin, honestly, is a bit of a mystery, even to the analytical agencies looking at it. What they say, it's not a huge magnet for severe weather. It does receive its fair share of snow in the winter and tornadoes in the summer. Flooding is not uncommon, and raising river points to spring flooding this time of year. Flood damage is also covered by comprehensive coverage, which is not required in most states. So if you want your vehicle to be fully covered, you'll need to carry this optional coverage. Wisconsin falls right in the middle of that when it comes to population density, ranking 25th, but much of the state is rural. And the rural areas almost always have lower car insurance rates more than urban areas because there are fewer accidents and fewer claims.
There you go.
So that's interesting.
I think it's just because of the cheese.
Everybody's inside
cheese.
watching football, drinking beer, and eating cheese.
Eating cheese. Yeah. Plus,
Wouldn't that make it the most constipated state?
well, that's a separate podcast.
Or the most, how do I say this properly? The most,
You went with constipated, so just
all right,
let
I'll
it
say
flow.
the most highly farted or flatulent oriented state.
Flatulent state. I feel like that would be like a southwestern state because of the beans and
Yeah, good point.
so. Wow, we've really.
We've gone off
how, do we,
topic
how do we do this?
We just had a snack, and yet we're
Yeah,
still
see?
talking about food.
Yeah, because of fat guys.
Yeah, exactly. So number 3, any questions? So we've covered Maine, we've covered Wisconsin, very rural states.
Honestly, Eric, I don't want to play this game anymore because I don't guess right.
Okay. Well, Idaho. I think you guys mentioned it earlier. Idaho is number 3 for a few reasons. Very rural, very few drivers, and low uninsured rates. So Idaho stayed in third place for the third year in a row. The average annual premium came in at $1,040, which is 29% below the national average. Idaho is pretty sparsely populated and mainly rural, which leads to lower car insurance rates. According to World Atlas, Idaho has the 7th least population density in the country. There are roughly 20 people for every square mile. Wide open spaces with few people means fewer cars on the road, fewer accidents, and everything an insurance company loves.
Stay home. That's what they like.
We've done the top 3, right?
Yep.
Okay, so you have Maine, Wisconsin, and Idaho.
Yep.
Right. So I find it interesting because the states that were had higher rates, Florida, Louisiana, particularly, seem like fun places to go live and hang out. Maine, Wisconsin, Idaho.
Don't sound like
None
fun
of that.
places to go hang out.
They're very nice places, but they're not fun places to go party.
Unless you want to.
Wisconsin has that one Summerfest.
Oh,
during the
yeah.
day.
They've won.
That
Isn't it
draws
a
a lot
lake?
of people.
That's Vegas. Never mind. I was thinking about the big lake party. That's Vegas. Never mind.
Yeah.
Lake Havasu?
Yeah.
Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, Lake Havasu.
Yeah.
That's
Arizona?
But
Oh, it's Arizona?
so basically, if you want to have a good time, you're going to pay higher insurance rates. Is what I'm I think
That
is-
makes sense.
is
Yeah.
true.
If you think about it, Florida has
So-
the party schools. We have all the spring vacation spots.
Beaches galore,
Beaches.
yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Beautiful girls,
Absolutely.
really
I mean-
rich guys.
What do you go out to do for fun in places like Idaho? Cow tipping? Potato farming?
Though, to be fair, we do cow tipping in Florida too. that's still a thing here.
Okay, so we got 3 rural places down. Do you think number 4 is rural?
It has to be.
Yeah, it's kind of the trend.
Okay,
I'm
got
going to
any
go
guesses?
one of the Dakotas.
Close.
Look at Utah,
Both were close guesses. Iowa.
Iowa.
So Iowa, when most people think of Iowa, they think of farms, wide open spaces. But according to a USDA survey, there were 86,900 farms during the Iowa landscape in 2017, which translates into roughly 30.5 million acres of Iowa being farmed. It's a lot of farmland.
It's a lot of farmland.
Iowa moved up 1 spot from last year's place in the 4th spot. It's the average annual premium in the Hawkeye State is $1,047. So if you think about it, we just talked about Idaho. It's $1,040. So it's not much of a difference as far as cost. Roughly
Right.
$7 a month, and it's a 28% less than the national average. So it's pretty interesting.
Okay.
So we're on to state number 5 as the least expensive state.
I'm gonna go Kansas.
Good guess.
I'm going to stick with the Dakotas again.
Both good guesses, but both incorrect. It's Virginia.
Virginia.
Had 2 states to choose on 2 picks. And
And just over.
Okay, so Virginia comes in because it's required. It's a required uninsured motorist coverage state. So it dropped 1 state from 4th to 5th. The average premium in Virginia came in at $1,063. So if you think about it, the top 3 least expensive states are only a difference of roughly at most $20 a month.
Right.
So it's pretty close as far as cost. It's 27% under the national average. According to Kenneth Sherrod, Director of the Division of Information Resources in Virginia, one of the most prominent reasons that car insurance is so affordable in a competitive market, there are more than 400 insurance carriers that offer and write coverage in Virginia. Wow. So competition is an effective regulator of premiums charged. While competition certainly helps keep premiums in check, it's not the only factor. In addition, under Virginia's law for seeking recovery, the person at fault for causing a car accident is held responsible for any resulting harm, says Sherrod. Virginia also requires uninsured motorist coverage as part of a driver's own auto insurance plan in case they are involved in an accident with an uninsured driver, he continues. Not all states require drivers to carry uninsured motorist coverage.
so they make you carry insurance in case somebody else doesn't have insurance.
Right.
Isn't that a requirement for Florida as well, where we're at now?
No.
It's not a requirement to have
It's
it.
separate.
It's
No.
separate.
Because Florida's a no-fault state,
that's
like
right.
Michigan. So we have to have
But if you have your own uninsured motorist coverage, then it's an additional level of protection for yourself,
right. And given the fact that 26.7% of Florida drivers don't have insurance,
which we just learned.
It's a very good bet that
you
you're going to
really
use it.
should have uninsured motorists if
Yeah.
you're driving in Florida.
Actually, so in that situation, if you weren't to have it and you were at fault in an accident, how would that hurt you in the state of Florida? Would that mean you'd have to pay out of pocket for the other driver if you were at fault?
The uninsured motorists?
Yeah.
No. So if you were to hit an uninsured motorist, your liability would pay like normal because
Okay.
liability is for other people.
Okay.
If you were to be hit by an uninsured motorist,
That
if they
policy covers
if
you.
they don't have any insurance, then your uninsured motorist coverage would then kick in there.
What if you don't have it and someone hits you who's uninsured?
I hope you have good health insurance,
So it all goes back to your health insurance.
except for the first $10,000 in the PIP coverage that's required by Florida law.
So if you're severely injured, you're SOL pretty much.
Yeah.
Man, that's a good policy to have.
Yes.
So we hope you enjoyed our little fun episode this week talking about the most expensive and the least expensive places to live when it comes to car insurance. Hopefully if you're considering a move, you keep those in mind. Don't come to Florida. We've learned we're expensive.
Or if you live in D.C., move to Virginia.
Yeah, exactly. If you
You know?
live in a top 5 expensive state, relocate to a cheaper state, so to speak. And if you're looking to move or relocate and you're looking for some good insurance rates, contact the folks at QuoteSavage.com. They'll give you some good rates on auto, life, home, and soon to becoming health. And I believe over 65 Medicare coverage too. So check them out. Let them know we sent you. And as always, thanks for tuning in. Chris, thanks for joining us this week.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate you sitting in, and we'll be back next week.
Thank you for listening to Helium Radio. The views expressed by show hosts or their guests are their own and should not be construed in any way as advice from Helium Radio. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our website. Personal perspectives expressed by the producers, writers, and editors will always be presented as such. Any rebroadcast or retransmission without the express written consent of Helium Radio is strictly prohibited. Thanks for listening.